Hello, it's Jack here. The following video will show content on how to make your own scroll saw. While on progress, let's discuss about what is a scroll saw. A scroll saw is a small electric or pedal-operated saw used to cut intricate curves in wood, metal, or other materials. The fineness of its blade allows it to cut more delicately than a power jigsaw, and more easily than a hand-coping saw or fret saw. Like those tools, it is capable of creating curves with edges by pivoting its table. The scroll saw's name derives from its traditional use in making scrollwork, sculptural ornaments which prominently featured scroll head designs. While somewhat similar to a band saw, a scroll saw uses a reciprocating blade rather than a continuous loop. Like a hand-coping saw, the scroll saw's blade can be removed and placed through a pre-drilled starting hole, allowing interior cutouts to be made without an entry slot. Also, the fineness in both width and tooth count of a scroll's blade permits significantly more intricate curves than even the narrowest gauge band saw blade. The majority of scroll saws offer a small light on a flexible arm that illuminates the work area and a dust blower nozzle to keep the work case clear while working. Table tilting enables angled cuts to be made precisely and easily. Variable speed support allows even finer control over cuts when working with delicate materials or when making intricate cuts. Scroll saws are classified according to the size of their throat, which is the distance from the blade to the rear frame of the saw. The throat depth determines how large a piece of wood can be cut. Smaller saws have a throat of as little as 12 inches, or 300 mm, while commercial saws can approach 30 inches, or 760 mm. Before the era of computer automation, industrial saws were sometimes used to make even larger objects by hanging the top mechanical linkage from the ceiling, thus providing an arbitrarily deep throat. Scroll saws vary in price from under $100 to close to $2,000. The more costly saws are more accurate and easier to use, usually because they minimize vibration, though this is dependent in part upon design and frequency, with many models offering no vibrations in some frequencies, and increased vibration in others. There are several types of scroll saws. The most common design is the parallel arm, in which a motor is attached near the back of the arms and the two arms always remain parallel to each other. The C-arm variant uses a solid, C-shaped arm, with the blade being mounted between the two ends of the C. The parallel link type, used by Hawk, Excalibur, and DeWalt, has rods in the upper and lower arms that are pushed by the motor to move short, about 4 inches, or 100 mm, articulated arms which hold the blade. The rigid arm scroll saw was popular until the 1970s but is no longer made. It has a single-piece cast iron frame. The blade is attached to a pitman arm on the bottom, which pulls the blade down. A spring in the upper arm pulls the blade back up again. This design has a significant weakness in that the tension on the blade changes with every stroke. Modern scroll saws are all constant tension designs. Scroll saws cut with a short up and down motion, just like a coping saw, in material up to about 2 inches thick. Blade speed on newer machines can be adjusted, making it possible to tune the saw for different materials. In general, slower speed are better for soft materials and higher speeds with hard materials. One-speed machines are not as versatile. The blade moves up and down at the center of a small table, some of which are adjustable in 2 directions for making angled cuts. One limiting factor is the distance between the blade and the support arm at the back of the machine. This measurement is known as throat size. Old-style scroll saws were notorious blade eaters, but newer designs keep blade tension constant and reduce breakage. Good blade alignment, the ability of a blade to track straight up and straight down, makes smooth cuts more likely and helps blades last longer. Tool-free blade changing is another helpful feature. Scroll saws are used for fine woodworking where you want the speed and power of an electrical saw combined with the precision of a fine handheld blade or X-Acto knife. They have a very slender blade that moves up and down at between 400 to 1,800 strokes per minute. Although most people think of scroll saws being used for cutting wood, it can also cut thin metal, plastic, plexiglass, and other materials. Scroll saws all have a few standard parts in common. They have a flat table where your wood or other material is placed for sawing, an arm that extends over the table, a tip for connecting the saw blade, a hole in the table where the blade connects to the motor under the table, and a base containing the motor and legs, or bottom of the saw. The distance from the blade to the back of the saw is called the throat. Most scroll saws for home use will have a 16-inch throat, while professional scroll saws will have a throat capacity between 12 to 30 inches. Scroll sawing is a popular hobby for many woodworkers. The tool allows a substantial amount of creativity and requires comparatively little space. In addition, many scroll saw projects require little more than the saw itself, reducing the investment in tools. A drill is required for interior cutouts, preferably a drill press for finely detailed work. Scroll saws are often used to cut intricate curves and joints, a task they can complete quickly and with great accuracy. They can also be used to cut dovetail joints and are a common tool for thicker intarsia projects. When a fine blade is used, the notch of a scroll saw is almost invisible. Along with band saws, jigsaws, and now recently seen chainsaws, scroll saws are used with modern intarsia. Scroll saws are comparatively safe. In particular, inadvertent contact between the blade and the operator's fingers or limbs is unlikely to result in serious injury, due to a smaller blade and relatively slower speed, compared to tools such as a table saw. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button.